Fusion of Afrobeats and hip-hop has been very interesting to see. Whilst on the surface it may look like one party is using the other party for profits and for gains, it's actually deeper than that. No, this is not a trend. No, it is not a quick money grab. It is, however, a calculated strategic move to ensure continued growth and relevance in a very competitive industry. But which industry exactly? Let's find out. When we turn on the radio, when we stream our favorite playlist, and when we attend a concert, we often forget one crucial fact. Music is a business. Many fans like myself, we get caught up in the artistry, the emotions, and the cultural significance of the music, and oftentimes we overlook the commercial forces that shape the industry. The confusion is understandable because after all, music touches our hearts. It defines our identities, the soundtrack for our lives. It's personal, it's cultural, but it's also a multi-million-dollar industry. There are record labels, there are streaming platforms, and the artists even themselves are constantly looking for ways to grow their audience and increase their profits, just like a normal business. So there are various business strategies that they adapt to achieve that, just like a normal business. And one of these strategies is called the answer matrix. So what it is that the tool, it's a business tool that helps companies figure out how to grow. It was created by a man named Igor Ansoff, and he created it in 1957. If you study business and if you look at many business books, you will find Ansoff matrix in there. I studied that when I was doing my master's in business. So the Ansoff matrix has 4 parts. 1, market penetration. Number 2, market development. Number 3, product development. And then finally, diversification. So if we look at the music industry, let's look at products as the songs and the albums. And let's look at customers as the listeners and the fans. So now that we have an understanding of this, let's look at how Ansoff matrix has been used by both Afrobeats and hip-hop to come together and fuse as one. But who's really benefiting from it? Let's look at that. Before a product even comes out to the market, the first thing that it needs to answer is, who are my customers? And the second thing is, how can I sell more of this product to my current customers? And for hip-hop, how they did that was they knew their customers were African Americans, and they wanted these artists to firstly perfect their sound so that they can resonate with the African American community, but also build their local followings and also dominate the radio station. That was the first thing, that was the first focus before you could even move to anything else. That's the first thing you wanted to focus on. And they did that by doing block parties. The DJs and the MCs will perform at local events, spreading the music organically. And then they did mixtapes where the artists will distribute their music informally and then building buzz in the streets. There's also radio where they get more airplay to push on urban radios, and then music videos. There was the rise of MTV, so they used that to their attention. Afrobeats, on the other hand, was also rooted in its African traditions. So initially, it gained popularity in African countries, particularly Nigeria and Ghana, I'll say. And how they did theirs was that they did local performances as well. So the artists were performing at the clubs, at the festivals, and the community events. And then they did radio, where they worked with the radio stations so that, they can get their music played, TV appearances, and they did collaborations with also other local artists. Now that they've captured this stage, they needed to move on to the second stage. There's a question that every business asks itself when it's ready to grow, which is, how can I sell my current products to new customers? And if you look at hip-hop, how that looked like is they were like, okay, we've conquered the American community. How can we now expand beyond our current audience, both in America and also internationally? And they did that by doing crossover hits. So the artists will create songs with, other artists from other countries without losing the hip-hop, essence. They also did things like performing international tours where they will have a tour and go to different countries so that they can build a fan base around that country. They also appeared in, film and TV, where they will stay in movies that will be played in other countries and people will start to know more about that. And then there's also fashion and lifestyle branding as well. And for Afrobeats, it's also the same. So I think initially for Afrobeats, it was around the African continent. Because remember I said Afrobeats is predominantly in Nigeria, we will say, and Ghana as well. So the first thing that they did was to try to find other artists around other African countries that they can collaborate with, and that way those people will also know about them. And also, they did tours in other African countries. They also did different things in other African countries because there's so many countries, there's so many languages, there's so much going on. So you want to conquer all those people as well. So that means if I want to sell to a wider audience, I need to know who these people are. But then it gets to a point where, okay, people know who you are. You've got your current audience, you've got new audience, then what's next? Personally, I'll say that it is during this stage that we saw the fusion of Afrobeats and hip-hop. And this stage is the product development stage. At this stage, every business asks themselves, how can I create new products for my current customers? Because, they're used to my sound, they're used to hearing the same thing. So they're not excited anymore. How can I create new products? And I'm not going to say, I wouldn't say that somebody sat down. Okay, somebody did sit down and thought about this properly. But I'll say the first time we saw this was with Fireboy and Ed Sheeran. And it was new. I'm not going to lie, it was totally different. At times I was thinking, is Ed Sheeran singing in Yoruba or is that English? And it was actually English, but it was new. It was fresh. It was like a perfectly new product. I know some people didn't like it. Some people felt, Ed Sheeran wasn't even needed in that song because the song was already popular. But I would say he brought in something new in there. Because if you are a hip-hop fan and you're looking at this, you're like, wow, this is something new. It feels very different. And if you're an Afrobeats artist, you're like, whoa, this is also something new. Look at Ed Sheeran, there's language mix, there's a genre fusion. Everything just seems a bit different. And every business that wants to actually grow needs to think of that. How can I create new products for my current customers if I want to keep them? Because I cannot repeat the same thing over and over again and start feeding them that. They need something really different. And that's where the product development stage came in. So later on, we continued to see that play around with, Rema and Selena. We saw Justin Bieber with the Essence remix. We saw Chris Brown and Wizkid. We saw Ashake and her. There's so many of them. We saw others too where people were not happy about them. I think it was Lado and Rema. People were not happy with that fusion. They were like, oh, she wasn't needed on that track and everything. She wasn't needed in there. So I'll say it was this stage that it came together. Something needed to change because after many years of listening to Afrobeats, you're like, I want to listen to something else. After many years of listening to hip-hop or R&B, you're like, okay, what's new? As somebody who likes them both, you will like the fusion. And I'm one of those people. I like them both. So I'm like, okay, it's nice. Some of them I didn't like. Some of them I liked. But then we now move on to the final stage. The final stage of the Ansof's growth matrix is diversification. He says that when you start growing, there's one thing that you need to ask yourself, which is, how can I create new products for new customers? And what this looks like is for Afrobeats and hip-hop is, how can they create a new product where they blend two of the genres for a new market? A new market meaning people who have not been fans of either of them. So they don't listen to Afrobeats and they don't listen to hip-hop. These are the people that they want to get. So what can they do to get to those new people? And I don't think they have done this stage yet. From what I've been seeing, it looks like Tems. Tems is a very peculiar case, It seems like Tems is the only one who has gotten to this diversification in a way. It seems like Tems has skipped all of the other stages and went straight to diversification because Tems is Nigerian, and you will think, I don't know, in my opinion, it feels like Tems has an audience. More of our audience are not Nigerians, or more of our audience are not even Africans. That's what I would say. But let's go back. Let's stay on track. So diversification is something that I feel they haven't done yet. And what that will look like is, how can, example, a Wizkid and a Chris Brown come together and create a song that will not have, it will still have Afrobeats and hip hop, but it will have something else that will get somebody who's, let's say, like a country music fan. What can they do around that? And if they can master that, that means that they will create this fusion really, really well. And one of the things that we need to answer is, which I've asked the question in the title and everything of this video, is who's really benefiting from this fusion? We've seen it, we've gone through the stages of why it was needed, but who's really, really benefiting from this fusion? Who really benefits from the Afrobeats and hip hop fusion? I'll say it has created a lot of opportunities, because if we look at major artists who are established, they already have significant gains around this. They are getting a new fan base, they're doing tours, it's international for them from both sides as well. So they're getting something really, really major from this. If you look at record labels, they're making money from this. Big labels will make money from this merger, and then from this, marketing and everything, with more streams and, more downloads, more subscribers. People like Spotify and Apple Music will also gain from this. So they're the streaming platforms. Producers will also gain because they will be in high demand. And also, finally, fans. We cannot say that we are not benefiting from this. We are, because we will get new sounds, new cultural expressions, we'll get something new. However, there's also some challenges. There are some of our artists who cannot have the money, or who do not have the marketing budget to go find like a Chris Brown or Ed Sheeran or Nicki Minaj to, do a song with. What happens to those artists? And also, there are some people who I know who do not like this fusion. They're like, I just want my Afrobeats as Afrobeats. I don't want it to be something else. And there's some people who are like, I just want my hip hop as hip hop. I really do not want something else. So whilst there's benefits and there's challenges, let me answer the question that you came in here for, is from Afrobeats to hip hop, which industry is benefiting more from all of this? So I've told you why this fusion was necessary, why Afrobeats and hip hop needed to come together, because I believe it's important as fans for us to enjoy the music whilst also being aware of the business decisions that drive some of these changes. Because sometimes we might see something and we are like, I don't want this, I don't want that. Meanwhile, it's a business decision. So the awareness doesn't have to diminish our enjoyment. Instead, you can use this awareness to deepen our understanding and also appreciate when things come together. Afrobeats and hip hop have shown us that, like any product that starts to feel stagnant, reaching out to new audiences with new sound can, bring back the product. It's also a reminder that, music, as in business, growth often comes from a willingness to evolve and embrace each other. However, without, seeing the contracts, without knowing what are the deals behind the scenes, without knowing all of that stuff, the financial stuff that people like artists don't even share, we wouldn't be able to know who's benefiting more from this. But from the way that I'm looking at it, it looks like there's a certain group of people who are benefiting, and I'm talking about artists. So for me personally, I would say the people who are really, really benefiting from this are the people who are already established artists. If you come in without a marketing budget, this will not be able to be done. You will not be able to get this artist that you want to get. So the people who are really, really, benefiting are the established artists, and obviously the record labels as well. They're the ones who are benefiting more from this. So that was my long-winded way of saying that it looks like everyone benefits from this fusion. However, there are some people who benefit more than the others. Let me know what your thoughts are. in the comments. Let's discuss.